Councilmember Bowden, you with us?
I'm here.
All right, y'all good? Y'all ready? All right. I'd like to call this here December 19th, 2023 meeting of the City Council of Charleston to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gregg, Councilmember Shealy.
Here.
Councilmember Saccharin, Councilmember Mitchell, Councilmember Brady, Councilmember Gregory, Councilmember Waring, Councilmember Seekings, Councilmember Shade, Councilmember Bowden,
Here.
Councilmember Appel, Councilmember Parker, Mayor Tecklenburg.
Here. And Councilmember Bowden, can you pray over virtually for us?
Happy to.
If y'all would like to join us, Councilmember Bowden will lead us in an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. Councilmember?
Thank you. We pray for the power to be gentle, the strength to be forgiving, the patience to be understanding, and the endurance to accept the consequences of holding on to what we believe to be right. May we put our trust in the power of good to overcome evil and the power of love to overcome hatred. We pray for the vision to see and the faith to believe in a world emancipated from violence, a new world where fear shall no longer lead men or women to commit injustice, nor selfishness make them bring suffering to others. Help us to devote our whole life and thought and energy to the task of making peace, praying always for the inspiration and the power to fulfill the destiny for which we and all men and women were created. Thank you.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
All right. So I must admit, I don't always remember to advise this, but in the most unlikely event that we would need to evacuate the building, we have these two exit doors here from the main chamber and one exit door over there. Then you only got two options to get downstairs with the don't use the elevator, and then only one option to get out the front door. So that's the way we vacate, just in case the most unlikely event that would occur. So first up on our agenda is to recognize the 2023 City of Charleston Employee of the Year. I'd like to ask Monique Avery, come forward. She's the chairperson, y'all, of our customer service initiative effort. Our dedicated workforce, by the way, is the backbone of this city. I'm going to talk about that a little later tonight. They drive progress, foster innovation, and embody the spirit of service to the community. It's my honor to help recognize an exceptional employee tonight who earned the title of 2023 City of Charleston Employee of the Year. Monique.
Thank you, sir. What a wonderful year of excellence 2023 has been for us. I want to thank Mayor Tecklenburg for the confidence he's placed in me to lead our CSI team. And thank you, the hardworking members of our team that take on the task every quarter of reading all of our quarterly nominations that are submitted by our employees and our citizens, and making the often very tough decision of choosing our quarterly winners. This year, we had 112 nominations totaling over 195 city employees being nominated. We do have some of our committee members here with us this evening. If y'all can just wave so I can personally say thank you to them for all of their hard work. One of the hardest tasks that we had is rereading our winning nominations and determining whom to select as our Employee of the Year. This year's task was extremely difficult as all of our finalists were deserving of the honor. I'm pleased to announce and present the Susan Griffin Award for Excellence in Customer Service and the 2023 Employee of the Year recognition to Seth Maddox from the City of Charleston's Parks Department. I'm going to take just a moment to read Seth's nomination that was submitted for him by Safety Officer Candace Holmes. A city employee that worked in the construction division of the Parks Department was injured while at work. He was out of work for 6 months. Seth was that employee's immediate supervisor. Seth remained in contact with the employee while he was out of work and even after the employee was assigned to work light duty in another department. He had respect for others. Unfortunately, the employee suffered 2 strokes and was hospitalized for several weeks. In order to return home, the employee needed a ramp built to enter and exit his home. Praise the Lord for Seth. On his own time, with his own materials, and without being asked, Seth built a ramp for the employee. Seth's actions showed him owning the moment by seeing a problem and fixing it. He also was responsive by anticipating the needs of the employee and completing the ramp in a timely manner. If you want to present this to him and take a picture. Careful. Break it.
Monique joins.
Oh.
Boy of the year to get the podium and the mic and everything.
Yeah. Thank you to my peers, and selfless acts of kindness are very, very important. And I hope that we can all continue to do something like that. So thank you.
So y'all, I gotta tell you, we do this every quarter. We assembled all the nominations, both what we call internal nominations for one employee who helps out another employee, like Seth did, or external reports that we get from citizens who encounter or see one of our city employees doing a great job, sometimes saving lives. And y'all, the stories are just remarkable. I think we could compile them into an amazing account and book about the servants' hearts of our city of Charleston employees. They're really terrific. So next up is a resolution in remembrance of Theodore Ted Richardson, the mage, requested by Councilmember Shade. If you'd come forward along with the headmaster of Portugal School, DuBose Eggleston, and some members of the Richardson family. And I'm going to ask Councilmember Shade, since he made this request, if he would also read the resolution. Councilmember.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we have Jim Buxton, who's the chairman of the board of the school, along with DuBose. And I appreciate the opportunity, Mayor, to let me do this. I'll start off with a resolution, then I'll give a little brief explanation. Whereas the city of Charleston expresses its deep condolences on the passing of Theodore Ted R. Richardson, born on January 2nd, 1925 in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and he passed away on July 11, 2021. And whereas Theodore Ted Richardson, a 1942 Dunmore High School graduate, enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps at age 17, serving in the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, he participated in World War II battles like Guadalcanal, New Guinea, and New Britain. Notably, he was the last survivor of the Battle of Guadalcanal. I think I mispronounced that. And whereas after World War II, Theodore Ted Richardson married Florence M. McBride and began a nearly 50-year career in education. He relocated to Charleston in 1954, joining Porter Military Academy as a 7th grade teacher and coach. By 1959, he managed grades 7 through 9 and served as headmaster in 1963. Following the merger of Porter Military, the Gouge School, and the Watts School, leading to the formation of Porter Gouge School in West Ashley, he became principal of the middle school. And whereas an avid college football fan, Theodore Ted Richardson served as a football scout, and Councilmember Shealy and Waring and Appel would appreciate this, for Lou Holtz. And organized and led Saturday morning football games. He also taught a class of his own design on the cultures of the Pacific. And whereas Theodore Ted Richardson and Florence resided on the Porter-Gaud campus until their 1992 retirement, when they relocated to Hawaii. Due to their dedicated service, the lower school library bears Florence's name, honoring her roles as librarian, secretary, and registrar. The former middle school building, now the Fine Arts Facility, is named after Ted. Additionally, the top middle school and athletic awards are named in his honor. Ted, who mentored, disciplined, and taught numerous Porter Military Academy and Porter-Gaud students, maintained lasting connections with many over the years. And whereas Ted Richardson was nationally recognized when it was discovered he rode 3 buses every day, over 2,000 trips, to what's called the Punch Bowl Military Cemetery in Hawaii to visit Florence's grave to offer a Hawaiian blessing. And whereas Ted Richardson had a son, Terry Richardson of Charleston, and daughters Yo King Yi and Ho King Yang, and Yokesh Oki, Ted's impact extended far beyond academics as he embodied sportsmanship, discipline, integrity, loyalty, and unwavering love.
Now, therefore, I be it resolved, that I, John J. Tecklenburg, Mayor of the City of Charleston, on behalf of our citizens and City Council, hereby extend to the members of the family this expression of sincere regret for their loss and hope that they will be consoled, know they will, by the memories of his fine life and achievements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Now would Headmaster like to make some remarks?
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of Porter-Gaud School and also since Jim and I are both alumni and products of Porter-Gaud and thrived under the watch and care of the mage, Ted Richardson, we're honored to be here tonight and grateful for this proclamation in his memory. I would say most of all that the mage cared for us as students. Didn't mean there wasn't discipline, there wasn't consequences, that there wasn't integrity, but we always knew that there was care and love, and he wanted the best for us, and we thrived under that. And so there are thousands of us that came through Porter-Gaud, through especially the middle school, that have fond memories of the work that he did on our behalf. And just grateful to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
If I could just conclude this real quick,
Yeah.
we as city council members have the opportunity to bring these resolutions up. And this is my last opportunity to do this. And some of my family members are here. They understand that the impact that an educator can have, a teacher can have on you. And Mage Richardson, I'm a graduate of Porter-Gaud in 1974. I struggled through school. It was a challenge for me getting through Porter, but I did graduate in 1974 and went off to college and law school. But you look back, and here's an opportunity for us to always reflect. When you look back on life and you think about one person who has such a tremendous impact on you, you want to thank that person. And Ted Richardson was that person. And we can never, ever forget the quality that an educator has on our lives. My sister Joanne is here. She's a teacher. My sister Angela was a longtime teacher. The impact that teachers have on us is invaluable. And so my last act as a member of City Council, I just wanted to be able to emphasize that opportunity to thank Ted Richardson and thank Porter-Gaud School for the wonderful opportunity they gave me of being a student and a graduate of Porter-Gaud School. Thank you all very much.
Okay. They're going to practice the evacuation plan. So, Councilmember Shea, don't go anywhere yet because that might not be quite your last act as a council member. Come back. Next, we'd like to take a moment and acknowledge the invaluable contributions and service of our retiring council members and Mayor Pro Tem. Their leadership has been marked by thoughtful decision-making, tireless advocacy, and genuine passion for the betterment of this community. So come back up here, Councilmember Shade. He has served as District 9 council member and was Mayor Pro Tem in 2019. He was elected to office in November 2015, same time as myself. as a Charleston City Council member, District 9, as I mentioned. He's a practicing attorney in areas such as criminal defense, family law, and personal injury. He's married to Mary Shade, a practicing environmental attorney with Nexon Pruitt, and they have 3 children, Peter, James, and Julia, and some grandchildren, and I think other family members are here. Councilmember Shade, as he mentioned, graduated from the University of South Carolina. He received a Bachelor of Arts degree in 78 and the University of South Carolina School of Law, where he received his Juris Doctorate in 1981. He is a native of Charleston and resides in West Ashley. And I have for you, Councilmember Shade, Peter, this plaque for your distinguished service rendered to the city of Charleston from 2016 until 2024.
Thank you. The mayor said I could have a few words, so I'll try to keep it brief. I got it. Sit down.
But I am going to sit down just in case.
Just in case, I would too. I would too. So with the limited time allotted to me, I just want to address 3 topics very quickly. First, thank the people with whom have supported me these past 8 years. Give a real quick recap of my last 8 years on city council, and then offer you some insights as well. This has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. I've had a front row seat in the governance of the most historic city of America, sitting in one of the most historic chambers of governance, be it federal, state, or local. I have met and been engaged with some of the most civic-minded citizens in our community: Katie Zimmerman, Donna Jacobs, Diane Hamilton, Imogene Thomas, Jerome Harris, and there's a whole host of people, including those people who have served as presidents of neighborhood associations. I've had the unfailing, uncompromising support of so many people of my life that I can boast that I'm probably the luckiest man on this planet. To the citizens of Charleston, especially District 9, thank you for the opportunity to have served you. Thank you for the trust bestowed upon me, and I hope I have served you well. To those who have supported me with their time, talent, finances, I could not have done this without you. Your contributions in whatever form was invaluable in so many ways. Many of those who have been with me from my earliest campaign are here today, my family and friends, my cousin Gary Shade, who I saw around here, and his wife Stephanie, my cousin Norman, my dear friends and neighbors, the Kings, the Kales, my sister Diane and Joanne are here with us, my sons, and my wife Mary. Madam Clerk, you are wonderful. I just want to tell you, thank you for steering this council first as when you were the deputy and full-time clerk. And your guidance during the pandemic was invaluable. It really was. And you were the keel on the ship of the city, but you also kept a steady hand on the tiller. And while I want to give a huge shout out to all of our department heads, all of you, every one of you who are sitting over there today, you're underpaid, you're under-respected, y'all are wonderful. Your commitment and service to this community goes unnoticed. I will miss all of you. Thank you so very much, every one of you. But I got to give a shout out to Eric Pullman. I don't think Eric is here. He's had to put up with me. Eric is the West Ashley project manager, and he is all things West Ashley. So Eric, if you're listening on to this, thank you very much. My thank yous have to continue with Maria Oslagi, Holly Clayson, Georgia Cleosis, the Kales, and everybody else who have supported me throughout my time here. Their contributions are just been wonderful. To my children, James and Pete and Julia, who's up in Spartanburg, I'm so proud of you. Thank you. Mary. He's here. I got it. Thank you. She has battled cancer. And when I started this campaign back in 2015, she had just gone through cancer and survived numerous surgeries, chemotherapy, radiation therapy. On Friday before the 2019 campaign, the election back in 2019, she had her kidney removed on the Friday before the election. Just this year, she had 2 surgeries. So would y'all give Mary a huge round of applause? All right, I'll try to wrap this up. I lead y'all, you gentlemen and lady, with this. You got the West Ashley Revitalization Commission, you got the Stormwater Department, you have an ad hoc budget committee, and the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. Things that I'm very proud of. I had a hand in with the work of the mayor and work of all of y'all, but we've got those things done, and y'all have got that to work on. You've got huge issues ahead of you as I leave you. Y'all know what they are: affordable housing, flood management, King Street, traffic, public safety, managed growth, livability. I'm gonna leave you with these words. I suggest to my colleagues and those who succeed us to think about Charleston's future and how to tackle these very important issues in terms of the adopted mission statement of the 350 Commission, which stated as follows: engage the community to honor the city's rich heritage, unique customs, and diverse cultures in a manner that sets the course for Charleston to be a 21st global city. And in doing so, I may suggest one other thing, that you heed the words from the Book of Wisdom, which states, resplendent and unfading is wisdom, for taking thought of wisdom is the perfection of prudence. And whoever for her sake keeps vigil shall quickly be free from care. So as I depart this chamber for the last time this evening, I hope that I have contributed to the well-being of our city and its citizens. I hope I have left this place just a little bit better than when we first arrived, but I cannot be the judge of that. Instead, I will heed the words of President John Kennedy on his thoughts of leadership and leave you with these unanswered questions. When at some future date, the High Court of History sits in judgment on each of us, our success and our failures will be measured by the answers to 4 questions. First, were we truly men of courage? Second, were we truly men of judgment? Third, were we truly men of integrity? And finally, were we truly men of dedication? Thank you, and God bless all of you.
I'm missing the paper that I had with Jason Saccharin's bio on it. I think maybe Councilmember Shade took it. So let me invite Councilmember Saccharin to come up here and get 2 plaques. One for his service on city council from 2020 to 2024. And in addition, there you go, his service in the past year, serving as our mayor pro tem. Jason was elected in November 2019. He and his wife Lindsay live in Wagner Terrace with their 2 children, Laughlin and Atticus, who are here with us this evening. Thank you, kids, for being with us. He currently serves as the Director of Expanded Learning, that's known as Kaleidoscope, for the Charleston County School District, where he supervises 350 part-time, 50 full-time staff at 50 elementary schools with an annual budget of $10 million. He is a strong supporter of public education and fights to ensure all students have access to the same resources. He is a co-owner and founder of the Bon Banh Mi Southeast Asian Kitchen that Sandy and I sometimes stop at on our way back west to Ashley. They have wonderful sandwiches and salads there, which is home to 3 locations here in the Low Country. Jason, thank you for your service. And I know on the answer to one of those questions, Councilmember Shade, did you serve with integrity? There's no question that this man did just that. I give you Jason Saccharin.
I don't really have much prepared, so that's be a good thing for Councilman Mitchell. You're not going to have to give me the hook or tell me to hurry up. I do want to just a couple things. One, Peter, you touched upon it, and that is when I look across this room, we talk about some of the best nights we've had in this chamber. Tonight's up there with me, mainly because I look across and I see my family, and we often don't think about our families when we run for political office and what that means. The dedication that we have, but also the sacrifice that they make. Sandy, that's like firsthand. Lindsay, Peter's, Mary, we know what it's like. So I want to acknowledge our families and the importance that they require and the support that they have, particularly my wife, Lindsay, who was not only just there supporting her husband, but she was a thought partner. She is well abreast of the issues that we have here in Charleston. And we were a good team because I would come home, talk about some of the issues here, and she would provide some sometimes solicited, sometimes unsolicited advice. And I just want to say thank you for that support. And Laughlin and Atticus, hopefully you look upon this as an example of what it means to do well in our community, and I expect you to be doing the same. I also want to thank my colleagues here on council. I've established some great relationships with many of you. Got to work closely with many of you, not so closely with others, but I always felt like it was respected, it was honest, and it was civil. And for that, I'm internally grateful for that and humbled for those relationships that I've created. And to the staff, I work for the school district. I know what it's like to be a public servant. I know that it's not just underpaid. It's oftentimes you're only in the limelight, or you're only in the conversation when you're trying to solve an issue or solve a problem, that the general community doesn't see all the stuff that happens behind the scenes. So I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know each and every one of you, work with you individually. Your work does go noticed, and you are courageous heroes for our community. You wake up every day and do the job that many folks don't want to do because they could be working in the private sector. But you come, roll up your sleeves, and you do a great job. So it's been a pleasure working with each of you on staff. Last couple things is I'm going to take solace that, as elected officials, we don't make everybody happy. And that was a big learning curve for me that coming in was certainly everyone's going to like what I do. That was made evident pretty much, March of 2020 when COVID hit, right? And I want to thank the mayor and his leadership and council members for getting us through, folks. It wasn't just Charleston. It was a worldwide pandemic. And we were building the plane as we were flying it. And for anyone that suggests otherwise, that the mayor was not a leader during that time, I just want to say it's been a pleasure serving with you during that time. You led our city through a very tumultuous time, and it wasn't perfect, but we came out unscathed. We came out stronger for it. We came out stronger financially for it. We came out stronger as a city for it. So thank you, Mayor, for that leadership. The last piece is we're in transition as a city. And I want to acknowledge that we've got a mayor-elect. Hopefully Mayor-elect Cogswell is listening at home, or someone from his staff is here tonight or listening. But I want to say unequivocally to folks, because I'm paying attention to what's happening. It was a tough election, but it's time to turn the page. And success for Mayor Cogswell is going to be success for the city. And if anyone thinks that it's time to nitpick about whatever he's doing at this point, or wish him ill will, what I'm saying to you folks is we've got a city to lead. We've got a city to progress upon, and we got to rally behind Mayor Cogswell, and we got to make sure that we put him in the best position. And I guess I'm speaking to my fellow council members, because I know you can make and break a new elected mayor. I'm sure Mayor Tecklenburg knows those first early days, what that was like. So all I'm saying is give the new mayor a little bit of room to breathe, give him room for discretion. Mostly folks in the community, I just want to make sure that you're all aware that a successful mayor Cogswell is going to be a successful Charleston. So we got to do everything we can to get behind the new mayor. And I'm sure Mayor Tecklenburg has been wonderful during the transition. So those are my comments tonight. Other than that, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to serve. People have asked me what the future holds. Well, the future holds right there. I'm going to spend some time with my family, much to my daughter's dismay, who thinks her dad's the uncoolest person in the world. But I love you both. Lindsay, I love you. And it's been an honor to serve with everyone here in Chambers. And thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if you
Oh,
could
yeah,
stay
that's
up
right.
for just a moment. And Mr. Mayor, I think Councilmember Mitchell had something he wanted to say.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and council members, I'd like to add something to the agenda. And this, I know the time is short, but I would like to add something to the agenda tonight, and I'm asking you all to vote for it, to add something to the agenda.
Second. The motion's been properly seconded. What is the motion? Yeah,
Circumstances, for certain circumstances, we are going, and if I can carry the motion, if we carry the motion, I'll come back and say it what it is.
I'm gonna take a roll call, a voice vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. And aye, the motion passes.
Now, the motion is that I would like to name the Hope Center and the housing complex behind the Hope Center, John Tecklenburg Housing Complex and Hope Center.
I just want to make sure it's on the agenda. So thank you, Councilman Mitchell. With that, it is added to the agenda, correct? And now we got to vote on it. Do I get a motion to? And a second? Do you want to take a vote on it now?
Yep,
All
we'll
right.
vote on it now.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, that motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much for that honor, everyone. Yeah. I'm very uplifted because I take that and mean that it will get built, number one. But I also realize that Amy will tell me if we're short on the funding. If it's short, I got to raise the rest of the money. But that's okay. I don't mind. So council members and ladies and gentlemen, citizens assembled, I will not be brief. I will take a few minutes here this evening to share some thoughts and reflections of the last 8 years serving as mayor of Charleston. Has really been the honor of a lifetime. Every day I've been able to wake up and go to work with the goal of making our hometown an even better place and helping our citizens along the way, however possible. Who do I thank first? I thank God. I thank God for this amazing opportunity. But importantly, y'all, I got to thank Sandy and my family. They've given me incredible support all along the way, enabling me to serve. And Sandy, I sometimes refer to as the great connector because she remembers like everybody who does everything to help other people. And always, she's like a one-stop social service agency herself. And so she'll be active, I know, at the Hope Center. While we were here at council, we didn't always agree, but that's okay. We accomplished together really a lot of remarkable things. And pardon me for taking a few minutes, but I want to recount a few of those things. When we took office, and I mean that collectively, in January of 2016, we were confronted with a growing tent city. For the next 4 months, we worked to close it down, while at the same time addressing the needs of those who were experiencing homelessness and living there. Working with council and committed community partners, we identified the resources to help those in need, find them housing, and created the first day center with wraparound services for those who were experiencing homelessness. That's the Hope Center. And we started work on a permanent Hope Center as well, ready to begin construction, as I mentioned, next year. Together, we made homelessness a city initiative, and we have much to be proud of. Yes, there's still a lot of work to do, but we made important first steps. And at the end of the day, I must repeat what I truly believe in my heart, that we as individuals and as a community, as a city, are judged ultimately by how we help those most in need. I'm confident that Charleston will continue to be a city of caring and compassion. We made affordable housing a priority. I've stated that housing affordability is the key impediment, blockade to sustained economic growth for our entire region, not just the city of Charleston. It's getting to the point where housing affordability will impact our region's ability to sustainably grow. We've been a leader in the region here at the city of Charleston. We enacted a housing bond issue. We passed a fee in lieu ordinance to provide additional funds for affordable housing. We formed a land trust and a nonprofit partner in the Charleston Redevelopment Corporation. We've created incentives for developers to build affordable housing on site as part of their developments and many other initiatives. Affordable housing remains a challenge, but we have made important progress. And after a campaign where we tallied the numbers back and forth, I asked Gianna to go back and count again. It's 1,711 units of affordable housing in the city of Charleston that were created or currently in the pipeline. I've got the list. I can share you exactly where they are. I want to thank Gianna and the whole team for helping make all that happen. There was seldom, by the way, any disagreement on the city council when it came to this issue of affordability and attainability. It's like we're really all in on this. I'm confident that this council and Mayor-elect Cogswell will continue to do the same going forward. We address the realities, y'all, the realities of sea level rise, global warming, and flooding. It really wasn't a big deal 8 years ago. Maybe we would all like to forget that we activated the Municipal Emergency Operations Center 8 times during the last 8 years for named hurricanes, named storms. But along the way, we learned some lessons about all this. And we created the city's first stormwater department. We worked to find the funds needed to continue and complete the Spring Fishburne Drainage Project. We added check valves all through the city. We began the reconstruction of the Low Battery. We're in the midst of the Forest Oaks Drainage Project, West Ashley. We've teed up drainage projects in South Windermere, Central Park Drainage Basin, Barberry Woods on Johns Island, Shadow Moss and Church Creek Basin, and many more. In our new comprehensive plan, identifies low-lying areas that should not be densely developed in the years ahead. We've begun the critical work of developing a perimeter edge with the Army Corps of Engineers that will protect our hospital district and our central business district, lifeblood of our city's economy, from the impact of major storms and tidal surge. Regarding our partnership with the Corps, I call your attention to a memo placed on your desk this evening that gives a update about where we stand in light of the, I don't know what we're going to call it, the nor'easter of December 17th that we saw on Sunday. And much could be said about that storm. The predictions for the tide were way less than what actually occurred. We were all worried about how much rain we were going to get. And in fact, we ended up with a surge event. The fourth highest tide in our city's history, the highest not counting hurricanes. And what we discussed last night, Councilmember Waring, at your Public Works Committee was really telling, and I hope maybe you'll expand on it when you give your report. That when the tide in Charleston gets above 8.5 feet, the Atlantic Ocean is coming over land. And we can have all the pumps in the world, and we can't pump the Atlantic Ocean back onto itself. It'll burn the pumps out. And that's why I believe, all now realize we've got to have some form of perimeter protection. I've talked with Mayor-elect Cogswell about this. We both agree to proceed with the tidal and inland study that the Corps has agreed to engage with the city. And thankfully, he's meeting with the Corps right after he takes office. And my prayer and admonition is for this council and Mayor-elect Cogswell to come to a mutually agreeable design agreement for the pre-construction design and engineering of a perimeter protection for this peninsula. It will save this city for generations to come. And I think if y'all work together, you can make that happen. After addressing these frontline challenges of global climate change, we became the only city in South Carolina to enact a climate action plan. We've reduced the city's carbon footprint. We've increased recycling and composting. We've banned unnecessary plastics and helped lead the James Island Water Quality Task Force. On her recent visit to Charleston, most amazing person, Jane Goodall, encouraged everyone to think big, act small, but start somewhere. Start somewhere. We have done that in Charleston and are doing even more. We brought incredible leadership to our city, from Chief Luther Reynolds to Chief Dan Courier in our fire department, Matt Fountain in our stormwater department. We promoted the first woman to serve as our city's chief financial officer. Amy Wharton does an incredible job. Let me say this, though, about Chief Reynolds. I never dreamed a mayor and a police chief could develop such a friendship as we had. He was an incredible blessing to this city and our police department. And I was honored to support him and our men and women in blue, even when times got tough. But with Chief Reynolds passing, we did a nationwide search again for a new police chief and found the perfect candidate right here in Charleston, Chief Cheeto Walker. We created the positions. There's Cheeto. There he is over there. We also created for the first time the positions of Chief Resilience Officer and Chief Innovation Officer, and we're able to encourage, recognize national leaders, Dale Morris and Tracy McKee, to serve in those positions. Thank you for your service. And we built out our legal department so that it was really the best legal minds of any city in South Carolina. Thank you to Wilbur Johnson and Julia Copeland and all the legal team Y'all do an incredible job. Together, we made reforms that have enabled our city to function more effectively, more efficiently. We created the ad hoc budget committee, as Councilmember Shade mentioned. Our internal budget writing process has improved significantly. We created the West Ashley Revitalization Commission to better focus the city's attention to needs of the most populous area of our city. We developed a master plan for parks and recreation and approved a bond issue that will fund the important parks and recreation initiatives that the master plan identified. Now, we had already opened new parks like Hark, Richardson, West Ashley, and built new facilities like the Daniel Island Rec Center on Daniel Island. We renovated the Muni Golf Course. And yes, we're adding bathrooms. Y'all, I love bathrooms. And we proceeded with design and funded the development of the future WPAL Park and the Park Shore Pickleball Complex, Fort Pemberton Park on James Island, and purchased land for future parks on Johns Island, the Griffith Tract, which has wonderful water features, and we added to our existing park on Johns Island so that we can add a new rec center over there, the first one on Johns Island. We bought the Lowline Linear Park property, and we have a federal grant in place to get started on that future connectivity for the peninsula of Charleston. We're extending the Joseph P. Riley Waterfront Park, and facilitated by an act of amazing civic generosity, we will have an incredible urban park at the old SCE&G office property right up the street at 141 Meeting Street, which will also facilitate the E.B. White Historic Building being added to the Gibbs Art Gallery. In 8 years as mayor, I never once heard a citizen say, "Mayor, we got too many beautiful parks." But we've set the stage, y'all, to add significantly to our already wonderful park system. Thank you, Jason Kronsberg, for you and all your team and what y'all do. We address important issues of race that have confronted this city for centuries and our country for centuries. Together, we apologize for our city's direct role in the hideous institution of slavery. Yes, we took down the John C. Calhoun statue monument from its prominent place in downtown Charleston. We removed a symbol of support for slavery that had divided our city for too long. And I'm just going to give you the bottom line. I know John C. Calhoun. We have his portrait right around the corner here in the next room. He served all kind of important positions in our country. But the bottom line is that he did not believe that all men were created equal. And he provided the philosophical underpinning justification for the institution of slavery. And he did not deserve to be in the highest place of honor in our city without context. We also broke ground on what will be the most uplifting human experience in Charleston with the completion of the Mother Emanuel Memorial, designed by Michael Arad, who designed the World Trade Center Memorial in New York City. Y'all, I've seen pictures of the marble being sculpted that's on the way here for its construction. It's going to be powerful and beautiful and uplifting, and a message that brings not only Charlestonians and our visitors, but can help bring the world together in a message of racial conciliation and unity. We address those issues also by creating the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission that will continue to keep focus on what the city and its citizens should do to make sure our city is a place of fairness, equity, and diversity. We are following one of the important recommendations of the Special Commission on racial conciliation. And we'll be opening next quarter our city's first minority and women's business incubator. We created the Citizens Police Advisory Committee to engage our community more thoroughly in important public safety issues. We conducted our city's first ever racial bias audit and worked diligently to address issues of disparity and disparate treatment of our citizens by public safety. It continues to be a work in progress, but is work that I pray you are committed to continuing. We created the city's first business improvement district, BID. We were talking about this when I worked for Mayor Riley back in the 90s, to make sure that our economic engine of downtown King Street remains vital and energized. We created 2 new TIF districts, West Ashley and the Church Creek Basin, when I didn't think we'd be able to form any TIF districts, to provide long-term the kind of infrastructure improvements that will address issues facing those 2 important areas of our city. We found the funding necessary to construct the Ashley River crossing, a bike-ped bridge that will connect West Ashley with the peninsula and will provide safe passage across the Ashley River for our citizens and visitors. And following Mayor Riley's remarkable lead and amazing fundraising, we broke ground, built, and opened the International African American Museum, recognizing also this tragic past role in the slave trade that our city played, but celebrating the significant achievements and contributions of those who came to our city and our nation. We focus on steps we could take to improve the efficiency of city processes. We created a citizens call center that our citizens could access to get quick response to their needs. They average about 7,000 calls a month, creating over 1,500 work orders for our employees to tend to. We adopted CityBot, a text-based system to bring attention to issues important to Charlestonians. We created electronic messaging to alert our citizens to potential problems, such as flooded streets. And now you can sign up for CHS Trash Tracker, Charleston Trash Tracker, our latest app to help citizens with trash and recycling schedules and communications. And we created open data policies that allow us to more effectively use data to influence our city's decisions, as well as providing our citizens with easy access to that data. It's public information. Thank you, Tracy and Shannon, for all your work along there. We became a Bloomberg What Works City because of all this work that they did. These are a few of the things we've done together these past 8 years. Then there was a little bonus activity of navigating a worldwide pandemic, right? Go figure. 8 years that I must say now have gone by quickly. But I believe we built a solid foundation for what lies ahead for our city. As I said earlier, it has been a great honor to serve, to wake up every day and try to work together to make the city as best it can be. And I truly believe that Charleston is the best city in the United States of America. I believe that. Charleston is the best city in the United States of America. It's been an honor to work with each of you, everyone on council. It's been a particular honor to work with our nearly 1,800 city employees. They work every day to improve the lives of our citizens and make Charleston the city we love. I know as I leave the office of mayor, the city is in good hands. I feel confident about that. It's in good hands, y'all. And it's in no small part because of the efforts of our employees. I thank them from the bottom of my heart for all they do to make my days as mayor some of the best years of my life. Y'all are the heart and soul of this city. They make it work, and I know they will continue to do so. So I ask God's blessing on all of us. I ask God's blessing on the city of Charleston. I ask God's blessing on Mayor-elect Cogswell and future council. As Councilmember Saccharin reiterated, and I said on the night of the election, his success is the success of the future of the city of Charleston. God bless the city of Charleston, this holy city, and thank you all for putting up with me for 8 years. All right. Thank you, Mike. God bless. Thank you very much. Do y'all want to take 3 minutes? I don't know if everybody wants to stay for the rest of our business, but we can proceed along. Next up is our public hearings. I'm going to call on Christopher Morgan to come forward and share with us. We have 6 items up. I think they're mostly zoning issues, and we'll be happy to hear from the public on any of these issues as he brings them forward.
Mr. Mayor, can we move to take them all together for public hearing and then move from there?
Second.
We have a motion to take all 6 items together. They're all zoning related. All in favor, please say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Morgan, if you'd run through all 6 presentations, and then we'll ask anybody from the public who wants to address any of the items to come forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Okay. So. First item is 2871 Maybank Highway, recent annexation into the city. And it would be zoned general business. And you see the image here of the property. It's just to the west of a parcel that we annexed recently that's also general business. And it is, as evidenced here in our comprehensive plan, is in our city center. Is this not working? Is this better? Is that better?
That's better.
Okay, sorry about that.
Eat the mic, as they say.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So it's in our comprehensive plan as a city center. So general business is in line with that. And you see where it is along Maybank Highway. The aerial image of the property is an existing structure on the site. And Planning Commission did recommend approval of this general business zoning for this property. Then we will move on to number 2, which is a residential annexation, 168 Stono Drive on James Island. It would come into the city with zoning of SR1, as is common in that neighborhood for the other parcels that have annexed. And you see it's in our suburban.
Speak right in the mic.
It's in our suburban designated category. Maybe I need to pull the mic up. Okay, maybe this will be better. Okay. I went through Planning Commission and they recommended approval as well. And that's the image of the property, sorry. It's 168 Stono. And then on to 2018 Bay Hill, which is another residential annexation, will come into the city as SR1. And you see the surrounding SR1 in the neighborhood. Here it is in our comprehensive plan in Suburban Edge. That's compatible with that. The next one is Fern Hill Drive. And this is on Johns Island. This is undeveloped property. It's near one of our centers on Johns Island. And it is in areas that were formerly R4 in Charleston County, would come into the city as SR1. And we'll have future development of single family residential on it. And it's in our suburban designated area in our comprehensive plan. And that is the property. There it is there. Old farm fields adjacent to some of our borrow pit lakes that are on Johns Island. And Planning Commission did recommend approval of the SR1 here. And then we have 908 Trent Street in West Ashley, which is coming into the city as SR1, as have surrounding parcels in the neighborhood. It's in our suburban edge designated area from our comprehensive plan. And Planning Commission did recommend for this. And then finally, we have 1975 Holiday Street, another residential annexation in West Ashley. And this will come in the city as SR1, and it would be incompatible with what is in the surrounding neighborhood. And here you see an image of the existing neighborhood. It's one of these donut holes we've annexed. Planning Commission did approve recommendation of that.
All right, so we have 6 matters up for public hearing. I'm going to read out the property addresses again. If anybody would like to come forward and address any of these 6 items, please just come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and we'll be happy to hear from you. 2871 Maybank Highway, 168 Stono Drive, 2016 Bay Hill Drive, Fern Hill Drive, 908 Trent Street, and 1975 Holiday Street. We'll begin right here.
And Mr. Mayor, what is the time limit?
2 minutes.
Oh,
Mr.
2
Bryant.
minutes.
Great. Anthony G. Bryant, 2123 Cortland Avenue, North Carolina 29403. Thank you very much. 29403. I heard the council and I was very impressed with what I heard. But dissent is vitally important in this process. And absent of dissent, you really don't have a government at all. The country was created by dissenters, and I support dissenters. As long as they're respectful and got decorum, I respect dissent. Absent of it, I don't. But what I would say to all these annexations, based upon zoning and public safety and public health on this week, as far as the flooding is concerned, we're adding capacity. So when are we going to do a moratorium of some sort to begin to slow it down completely? Because we found out this week that maybe, you know, it might be the Wizard of Oz or something. You got brains and you got heart and you got courage, but don't reflect in action. And people have got their properties down, questionable, insurance rates are going to go to the roof. I mean, we got a serious problem, no disrespect to our fine mayor, but dissent is what we need. And external complaints need to be taken seriously from a local level, from a county level, and a state level, and a federal level. The external complaint can lead to voluntary compliance on many of these issues, but it has to be an internal complaint filed by an institution or somebody or some nonprofit or somebody you recognize. But external complaints are serious from individual citizens who have to pay these high insurance rates now as a result of this water we got. So I'm deeply concerned about the future with 25% African Americans in the whole county. And African American males under 25 are in the National Integrated Ballistic Network, meaning guns. They feel they have to carry guns in this community under 25 years old in Charleston. We got a real problem. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to address those 6 properties whose addresses I called out? All right, seeing none, the matter comes to council. We have a motion to approve all 6. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. Next up is our approval of city
So moved.
council minutes from November 28th. Any additions, deletions? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next already is our citizens' participation. Madam Clerk will call out the names of those who signed up. And how many folks do we have?
We have 17.
17 folks. So let's keep it at 90 seconds.
All right.
Minute and a half.
The time
Thank you.
is a minute and a half. Matt Colburn.
How you doing? I'm a working class citizen and I reject my tax dollars going to genocide and apartheid. I'm here to demand the city of Charleston call for a ceasefire. I find it absurd that the city council even passed the first resolution. Despite it being factually incorrect, it speaks nothing of the Palestinian people. There are currently hundreds of Palestinian Americans, legal permanent residents, and immediate family trapped in the besieged Gaza despite eligibility to leave. The city speaks of the 9 Americans killed on October 7th, but not once have you ever spoken of the concern for Palestinian Americans in Gaza being killed by indiscriminate violence. Neither is there any concern for your own Palestinian American constituents who have family in occupied Palestine and whose taxes fund their oppression. It's ridiculous moralizing by a city government that ignores the social decay they are proliferating via unwavering loyalty to developers who are gentrifying this city and expelling the longtime residents, mostly Gullah Geechee, by pricing them out of their homes. There are high-class shopping centers and fine dining around a growing homeless population and crumbling infrastructure. Divest the millions of dollars given to Israel and reinvest in the communities upon which you claim to govern. Fund education, healthcare, housing, infrastructure, not occupation and apartheid, because next time those floodwaters might rise a little higher. Israel's committing a genocide against the Palestinian people. We're here to say, not in our name, not in our dime. This is not a request. It is a demand. The people have spoken. The more you ignore, the louder our voices become until you can't hear anything else. We're all here to make one thing abundantly clear. If the people of Palestine don't get justice, you will not get peace. Ceasefire now.
Order, please. I'm sorry, we do not allow outbursts in the chambers, so if y'all want to show a show of hands to support comments being made, that's just fine. Thank you so much.
Mohammed Idris.
Evening, Mohammed Idris. Happy holidays to you all. And may God bless you all to enjoy your holidays. We have had a great experience Sunday. We see how the water affect our city. And we thank God that we didn't have no real big number of tragedies. All praise is due to God. All praise is due to God. When I was a little boy, I asked my grandmother a question. I said, Mama, what color is God? And she said, white. I went on. About a week later, I asked her, Mama, why you read that Bible so much? She said, have the word of God in it, son. The word of God. But you have to be careful and have parables, almost like code word. And I've lived to see. I'm 80 years old now. When I asked that question, I was 10. Those two issues are relevant in our life today. To know God and to know your Bible and live up to the God that you say created everything and he himself is not created. And when you swear on the Bible,
Time.
swear.
Anthony Bryan.
We spoke on this issue October 10th. And I'm gonna let you know right now, Lindsey Graham, Senator Scott, and others in this state, if you speak against what you're speaking against, look for the feds to be at your doorstep. SLED, the law enforcement RT, right, that's officer right now. If you dissent on this issue, you're looking at about 5 to 10 years in prison. Let it be known to notice the Department of Justice about investigatory use of personal information. It was done to me for speaking on this issue. Okay, separation of church and state is real. We have U.S. citizens who pay their taxes to not dissent against 20,000 people in another country that we fund another country that lost 1,000 people. That's 21,000 human beings, regardless of what they believe in. That's wrong on any level. To have a U.S. senator, a evangelical Christian, say it's okay if you say something against it, you're deplorable. This man has power of every federal agency in this country. He can destroy you in a day. Remember Fred Hampton? Remember him? Remember that? Huey Newton? All those people? Your fate will be the same.
Former Councilmember Jackson.
Good evening. I'm Carol Jackson. I live on Patterson Avenue on James Island. I'm here to recognize and thank the retiring members. So I have notes that I wrote to all 3 of them that I hope the clerk will deliver at some point in time. Thank you. But I'm here tonight to speak my words of thanks and respect to Councilmember Saccharin. I think what was said about him and what he charged his fellow colleagues whom he's leaving this evening really are the words that he lives into and we all admire and wish we could emulate on so many levels of thoughtfulness, respectfulness, recognition of others, and truly being the constituent services representative that his voters could count on. I don't know anyone who has taken more seriously and more time to help and represent his constituents. So I just want to thank you. I've been privileged to call you amigo, Councilmember Saccharin, and I hope that will continue and that we will continue to make good trouble. Thank you so much.
Leslie Scarden, or Darden, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Council. Great to see you all. I am one of the first few speakers to speak in support of the resolution to support instant runoff voting this evening. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the League of Women Voters of the state of South Carolina and the League of Women Voters of the Charleston area. Since I'm the first to go, I'll give a quick overview of what instant runoff voting is for those who aren't familiar. Say you got a bunch of kids and they're voting on ice cream. They can choose between strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate. Vanilla wins with 40%. Now that would mean that 60% of those kids don't get what they want. With instant runoff voting, what we would do is we would take the losing flavor of strawberry and we would reallocate the second choice vote. All of a sudden, chocolate wins with 55% of the vote. Instant runoff voting is a great way to not only reduce runoff elections, save taxpayer dollars, increase voter turnout, and make our democracy more representative of everyone in it. But I would also urge you to consider that instant runoff voting is a way to make our elections calmer, perhaps. If you are incentivized to be someone's second choice vote, hopefully you're not going to slander their opponent as much. Hopefully you're going to go to that person and listen to them. You're going to want to understand their views. Instant runoff voting has the opportunity to reduce some of the political rancor that we see today and build bridges. So on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I urge you all to vote in support of this resolution. On a final note, I will say that this resolution is not binding. State
Time.
legislation would still have passed. Thank you.
Marcus McDonald.
My name is Marcus McDonald. I'm lead organizer of Charleston Black Lives Matter. Before I begin, I would like to say if anyone who hears in support of the immediate ceasefire resolution of the genocide in Gaza, I'd like you to please stand if you're in support of the ceasefire resolution. Thank you. You can sit down now. So this is only the beginning. We are once again urging City Council and those who have any sort of moral compass to stand in solidarity with Palestinian people who are going through a genocide as we speak right now. It's important from us, from holy city to holy city, to demand a ceasefire and stand in solidarity with them. And I know that a lot of y'all may have your minds made up, but we've had conversations in the past, and I urge y'all to continue these conversations with us and look at other cities that have passed this resolution. Look at the UN, where over 150 countries around the world are in solidarity with Palestine calling for a ceasefire. We've seen genocides happen in this own city. I remember I saw Tecklenburg at the unveiling of the 1919 race riot that happened on King Street, where Black folks were killed indiscriminately. And you know what we did? We had to flee north to these northern cities. So we've seen the same type of thing in this very city. So we cannot ignore what happens in the holy cities around the world. In Bethlehem, they've canceled Christmas because they said if Jesus was born today, he would be born under the rubble and Israeli shelling. That's where we'd be born, in Bethlehem. So if you consider yourself a Christian, a good person in general, regardless of what religion, I urge you to come together with us and call for this ceasefire immediately. And that's all I say. Thank you.
Shane Dooley.
You can assume what I'm here for. I wrote something, but I'm not interested in that right now. I am asking each and every one of you here to consider what we are saying. There has been a constant bombing for the last 70 days. There are over 20,000 innocent people who are dead. If Charleston is in fact this safe haven that we say it is, why do we not become a light in these dark times? We need to put an end to this. We can be a city that makes a monumental move for peace. That is what we say, is it not? And that's all I have to say. Please, please, I'm asking you to consider calling a ceasefire. It may not change the world, but it would mean a lot to this city, and it would mean a lot to all of the lives lost and everyone who we are still fighting for that is still alive. Thank you.
Autumn Waddle.
Hello. My name's Autumn Waddell. I'm a leader and co-founder of Sunrise Charleston, a youth-led climate justice hub, and a Charleston County resident. I've come here this evening to join the voices demanding that Charleston call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. I'm passionate about this because I believe nobody should have to endure the human rights abuses that Palestinians are currently experiencing at the hands of Israel and the United States of America. I was horrified to learn the direct role Charleston has in the Gaza genocide by spending almost double our housing and community development annual budget on military aid to Israel so it can continue to commit atrocious war crimes and human rights abuses as it genocides an entire people. Because of this fact, Charleston needs to play a direct role in ending the senseless violence and civilian death. Charleston has the opportunity to be on the right side of history by doing what is just and humane and joining most of the world in calling for a ceasefire. It is not enough for Charleston to take down statues of oppressors if it is still standing in solidarity with modern-day oppressors committing unfathomable acts of violence. Instead, I hope that Mayor Tecklenburg is right and that Charleston can show it truly is a city of care and compassion by drafting an emergency ceasefire resolution. While I'm speaking as an individual, I have come here on behalf of my friends and family, as well as my fellow Sunrise Charleston leaders who all agree with what I have just said. It's been frustrating and infuriating being among the majority. Thank you.
Zach Vasidi.
Zach Vasidi, 59 Cypress. To start off with an apology. At the last city council meeting, I broke protocol by handing out those documents. And as an educator, I care deeply about procedures. But at the same time, I must point out that the procedure that I have faced with trying to start my business has been convoluted and just full of red tape. There has not been an actual bid in this business since 2011. The current incumbents have had automatic renewal for 15 years. And at that one tiny opportunity when we had to be there and be ready with everything, we were. And instead of allowing us to continue and actually try and start our business, you have pushed back and set up red tape and hurdle after hurdle. And yet I continue to stand here before you wanting to start that business, looking for that procedure. So please clarify that procedure, because procedures are created so that there's equal opportunity and everybody gets a chance. They're not created so that only a certain set of people who already are privileged can just maintain their status position. So please settle this. It's been 2 years. It's been far too long. Thank you.
Rebecca Harrelson.
Hi there, my name is Rebecca Harrelson. I do historic restoration in Charleston, downtown. I'm a Charleston resident. I'm calling for Charleston City Council to draft an emergency resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. I also just want to harken back to a few things that were said at the beginning of this meeting. There was a prayer at the very beginning. The key points of this prayer being about doing what's morally right, striving for peace, and working to end violence. If that prayer was not just a formality for y'all, then please draft this resolution calling for a ceasefire. There's a lot of children dying. I also wanted to quote you, Mayor Tecklenburg. You just said that we as a city, and I quote, "We are judged by how we help others in need." That is literally what you just said. I think that there are people overseas that need our help right now. So I'm just hoping that you guys will draft a resolution to call for a ceasefire in Israel and Gaza. Thank you.
Mickey Collins.
I'm a Charleston resident calling for Charleston City Council to draft an immediate emergency resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza from holy city to holy city. As of December 14th, at least 18,000 Palestinians have been killed by military actions, including at least 7,729 children and at least 5,153 women. Those who've been killed by Israeli military and those who are surviving this horrific genocide are not just numbers, they're people with hopes, dreams, and now dwindling and disappearing families. We must stand up for the people of Palestine, and all oppressed people stand on the right side of history and call for a ceasefire and end to the occupation in Gaza now. Free Palestine, ceasefire now.
Tyler Clapper.
My name is Tyler Clapper, and I'm a Charleston resident since I was 6 years old, calling for Charleston City Council to draft an emergency resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza from a holy city to holy city. I stand here not as myself, but as my Jewish friends who are too scared to speak out because of the lie of anti-Semitism. Not that any of this has to do with religion. I would also like to remind Charlestonians, transplants, and anyone else who reside in the heart of the imperial core that terrorism is a political designation, and if international law were respected, Israel would be considered a terrorist state. We must stand up for the people of Palestine, and all oppressed people stand on the right side of history and call for a ceasefire, an end to the occupation in Gaza. Now, I'm appalled at the $2 million Charleston has given, and anything else that supports this horrid atrocity. Free Palestine, ceasefire now.
Clint Eisenhower. And if anyone is online, you can press *6 to unmute yourself.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Clint Eisenhower. I live on James Island in the city. I'm here to speak, make 2 points on behalf of the instant runoff voting or ranked choice voting. The first one is cost. We need to eliminate runoff costs. I don't think candidates don't like it. It further suppresses voter turnout, and we just why spend the money, taxpayer money on that? The second point I want to make is about the illusion of choice once we walk in the voting booth. I voted for 50 years, and it's only in the last couple of years that I've realized that through gaming the system, we all know the way it works through gerrymandering and one thing another. But that's why we have such a polarized, or that's one of the reasons that we have such a polarized society now. And plurality voting further exacerbates that. Ranked choice voting gives me more choice. No matter what my choices are at the ballot box, it allows me to be a better citizen. It has shown that it encourages about a 10% bump in voter turnout. And we all know that we've got a lot of politicians who take their chairs with, 12 to 15%, sometimes of a 15% voter turnout. We need to do better as a democracy. Thank you.
Sharon Robinson.
This thing come down? Sorry, I'm height challenged.
I am here my name's Sharon Robinson. I live in Wagner Terrace, sorry. I am here to respectfully request that Mayor Tecklenburg and the City Council vote yes on the resolution to allow instant runoff voting to be used in municipal elections. I have several reasons why this is a good thing. One, the big one is elections are kinder. You guys, we just went through an election. There was some negative campaigning. We find that wherever it's used, that really dissipates. By having to appeal to other people's first choice supporters, you spend a lot more time focusing on the issues and not about what's bad with this guy, because that guy may come in third, fourth, fifth, you don't know, and you may need his and or hers votes. Especially in this day of very nasty partisanship. So we really appreciate nicer elections. I think candidates do, and I definitely know us voters do. The other big thing is the cost savings. I believe the last runoff cost over $100,000 to run, and that's just money that could be spent elsewhere, and we don't need to spend it. There is an extremely low turnout in the runoff, so you're ending up with a very minority of minority ending up deciding the election. So we already have. I moved here from Colorado 2 years ago, so I live in a different
Time.
world.
Peter Stockman.
Thank you. My name is Peter Stockman. I live on Johns Island. I'm speaking in favor of the resolution to support instant runoff voting as a method of nominating candidates and for determining the results of elections. I'm not going to repeat what others have said in support of the resolution. I agree with all these reasons. In addition to what's already been said, I'd just like to add a couple of things. One of them is that instant runoff voting is convenient and efficient for voters. A voter records his or her preferences on a ballot. They're recording how they would vote should there be a runoff. They do not need to come back to their polling place a second time. This is efficient and convenient for voters. It saves them time. It also increases the effective turnout for the instant runoff. It also increases the effective turnout from the runoff round of the election, because the turnout for the runoff round is identical to the turnout for the general election. In this way, you get better turnout for the runoff, and that's better for democracy. Finally, I'd just like to say that because so many instant runoff voting is an incremental change, because so many elections in South Carolina are nonpartisan elections. It's just not a big change. In races where a candidate would win a majority in a nonpartisan election, nothing changes. The majority winner takes it in the first.
Jerome Harris.
Jerome Harris, 528 Cecilia Cove Drive. Congratulations to the mayor, Councilman Shahid, and Councilman Saccharin on your distinguished service. I want to ask the three of you to make sure that you continue to stay involved. Specifically, I stand to present to council the opportunity to reappoint Jason to the to the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. He currently serves as co-chair. Him retiring from the city council leaves us with a hole. And I had hoped that there could be an emergency vote this evening for that, but I've been informed that that's not possible. I'd also like to announce that we have reached an agreement, the police department with Bob Kale, the director of the racial bias assessment, to hold a public forum on January 25th to discuss the findings of that activity. And CAJM, the Charleston Area Justice Ministry, the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission, and Hark have all agreed and begun to organize. And actually, I'm standing here tonight to say that this begins the organization and communication. We will ask each member of council and the city departments as the information becomes available to disseminate it, because we believe in the spirit of public safety, helping Chief Walker be successful and the new mayor be successful, that this is an opportunity. I also ask that you consider.
Time. Sorry.
Consider asking the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission to have and lead a thorough discussion on the Israeli-Hamas situation. This community needs an open discussion about that. And I think that's appropriate to our charge. I ask you to consider doing, council asking and the mayor asking us to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everton Jacobs. Everton Jacobs, and if you're online, you can press *6 to unmute yourself. All right, those were all the speakers that we had signed up. We did receive a number of comments online, and this is just a summary of comments. All of the comments in full were distributed to council for the council members' review before the meeting. One comment received from Jake Thomas said that council had ensnared the process of expanding the pedicab system and red tape, and that there needed to be a change. One comment was received from Laura Hancock's calling for a reallocation of funds meant for Israel to the Charleston school system instead. 24 comments were received that encouraged council to draft an emergency resolution calling for a ceasefire in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. 3 comments were received that called for an end to South Carolina's funding of Israel. And those were all the comments we received.
Okay, thank you. So thank you all for coming tonight and sharing your comments. Appreciate it very much. Next order of business, Councilmember Saccharin, would you like to be recognized?
Yes, Mayor. I'm not sure if it's customary. Can we comment on some of the comments?
It's, it is allowed, yes, sir. I do allow it. Councilmember Saccharin.
Can I make a statement?
I would like to ask everyone, though, who has signs to please bring them down now. People are watching from the other part of the room. Just hold them in front of yourselves would be fine. Great. Thank you very much. Councilmember Saccharin.
This is my last council meeting, so I'm not going to have the opportunity to say anything publicly, but I certainly want to acknowledge the folks in the room that came tonight in support of humanitarian crisis in Israel and Palestine. I think we need to acknowledge that there is a humanitarian crisis going on. I am Palestinian. My father was born in Israel. I spent time there. I know what the people are like on both sides. And when I was there, I didn't see the divisions that we often portray in the Western culture or Western media. I say that all to say is while I'm encouraged by folks coming tonight, I think it's important to understand full history and understand that you're here. And what I'm hearing is you're speaking on one aspect of the situation. I had drafted a commentary and I never posted it because it's been weighing on me since the attacks in Israel on October 7th or 8th. And I've talked to Councilman Appel, and I recognize Councilman or Jerry Harris, and who's my co-chair for Hark. I think it's important that the community have a conversation and understand the full history. So I'm just going to briefly read this, and if I'm out of order, tell me to stop. You can find me, and I'll pay the fine.
You're not out of order unless I ruled with the gavel. So please continue.
Just a little history lesson for those here supporting Palestine and a history lesson for those that are also supporting Israel. In the 1940s, according to the UN, both were supposed to get a state. Israel got theirs, Palestine did not. The atrocities on October 7th and 8th reminded me that the UN has publicly chastised both governments for documented human rights violations. In July 2023, a poll conducted by Washington Institute, 62% of Palestinians supported the ceasefire with Israel. That was back then. And 50% agreed that Hamas should stop calling for Israel's destruction and accept a two-state solution. Not all Palestinians support Hamas, and Hamas does not represent in any way the whole of the Arab world or Palestinians. And I say this to the folks here tonight. I think you all have a message that you're trying to convey. I would strongly suggest that your message should also include the atrocities that occurred on October 7th and 8th in Israel, the rape of women, the killing of children.
Order, please. Councilmember Saccharin has the floor.
This is not a conspiracy theory. These are things that happened. Just like the 20,000
I'm going to ask you to either be quiet or remove from the council chambers, please.
And if you can't-
Councilmember Saccharin now has the floor.
And if we
Thank you.
can't have a respectful conversation, I would suggest you leave. And the 20,000 Palestinians that have been killed. I think the message should be that life is life and humanity is humanity. And we need to be doing everything we can as Charlestonians to come together to recognize that we might have different viewpoints and come from different historical contexts, but we all can agree that death is bad, murder is bad. But when folks come into the chamber, as a Palestinian, when folks come into the chamber with signs that say Free Palestine and don't acknowledge the atrocities that Hamas perpetrated on innocent Israelis, to me, that suggests that you don't understand the full history of the Middle East. And again, all Palestinians are not Hamas. There hasn't been an election remember, there hasn't been an election in the Gaza Strip since 2008. They've been unrepresented. So I want to make sure that the general public realizes that folks in Charleston care about the Israelis and we care about the Palestinians. And it's difficult as a Palestinian to sit here and see folks come into the chamber because I think it's giving off the impression that you don't care about the atrocities that occurred. Last couple things I'll say. Again, just a little history lesson for those in the room. In 2006, Hamas won the Palestinian legislative election. They refused to recognize Israel's rights to exist and refused to abandon terror. Palestinians have not voted for a legislature since 2006. Hamas has been the de facto authority in Gaza since 2006. Israel controls much of the basic utilities in Gaza, and lack of water, poor sewage, and daily power outages are commonplace. So I understand the plight. History has shown when a young population lives without hope and opportunity, the potential for radicalization increases. And terror groups like Hamas feed their people a steady diet of disinformation. If we can't agree that Hamas is a terror group and at the same time cherish humanity and make sure that Palestinians don't die recklessly and Israelis don't die recklessly, then I don't know what the heck we're doing here.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to please remove yourself from the chamber. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
As a Palestinian,
Please wrap up.
my hope is that at least here in Charleston, we continue to have a honest, authentic, mature conversation. And you all will be welcome to any event that we do in the future, but I just want us to all remember that we're all here for humanity. We realize that innocent Palestinians have died, but at the same time, innocent Israelis have also died at the hands of the terror group.
Order, please. All right.
And
Sir, I'm going to ask you to remove yourself from the chamber, please. Thank you, sir.
those are the conclusion of my comments. I hope we all can have an honest and mature conversation at some point. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, council member. Thank you again to those who came and expressed yourself. We welcome that. All right, next up is our appointments, City of Charleston Housing Authority. We have a recommendation for Carol Jackson on the Charleston Housing Authority. We have a motion for approval. Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say, Councilmember Waring.
I do have a discussion. I know.
Order, please, now. Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I know and certainly respect former Council Lady Jackson. It's funny, we just had a wonderful speech and I commend you, Councilmember Sacrin. I know I couldn't have placed the words the way you did today, and I thank you highly for stepping up when something needed to be said most. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for granting him the opportunity to do that. So talking about what I'm about to talk about is minuscule compared to that. My reasoning for not supporting Councilwoman Jackson now for the spot is because I really and truly believe we have 12 days to go for this council. And 2 of those days are Christmas Eve and Christmas. I really think we ought to reserve these appointments as a courtesy to Mayor-elect Cogswell, Councilman-elect McBride, and Councilman-elect Tinkling. I think everybody can apply in January. There is no business to come before the Housing Authority. There is no business to come before CPAC. There cannot be, I don't even think they have another meeting before January. There's no urgency to rush to fill this seat. They have a quorum, a working quorum at the Housing Authority. And frankly, there's been a big question. As a matter of fact, colleagues on council have talked about, and I'm sure others will chime in about the term being 4, maybe even 5 years. Truthfully, to get 4 years, you have to put your name on the ballot. Right now, that needs to be modified. We can't modify that tonight. Obviously, it can be modified in January, but those are the reasons. I've always had a good working relationship with former Council Lady Jackson, but what is the rush? Is the politics that important? This can be carried over into January. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councilmember
Thank you,
Seekins?
Mr. Mayor. So I have a little bit of a different view on this, but it's consistent with Councilmember Waring. You may remember, not at our last city council meeting, but 2 city council meetings ago, this appointment was also on our tables and on our agenda. It was not, Councilwoman Jackson was not the appointee. It was Mr. Scarden for reappointment. And at the end of that meeting, there was a discussion where I particularly pointed out that until we figure out 2-152 and rethink the terms of appointments, we shouldn't be appointing anybody. And if you go back and look to the terms of appointments under that ordinance, they vary greatly. And the longest terms happen to be, one of them happens to be the Housing Authority, which on our agenda, it says that this appointment goes through 2028. It actually would go through 2029 because the appointment's for 5 years. I believe that our Rules Committee needs to get together, go through 2-152 and look at the terms of all of our committees, not just this one. It's not personal, all of our committees. Because, look, one of the things that we do in the city, and we couldn't run without it, is we hand over a lot of responsibility to people who sit on commissions and committees, a lot, and they do incredibly good work. And once they go out there and do it, we leave them alone. I mean, I don't think I've ever called a member of a committee or commission while they've been doing their job and lobbied them for anything. The only oversight that we've got is the appointment process. And it seems to me that a 3-year appointment process is a pretty good term for us to be able to evaluate how a commission is doing, how a commissioner is doing, any of that stuff. So for that reason, I think we should defer this until we get it in front of the Rules Committee. We come back, and it's not just this appointment. There are others out there that are for pretty long terms, 5 and 6 years. 3 appears to be the average, some are 2. So I would move that we defer this until we can go back, rethink our rules, make sure we've got the terms that are appropriate. And I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, when we talked about this very briefly last time, there seemed to be general consensus around this table. We need to go back and look at 2-152 and think about the terms that we appoint people to, for the very reason that some of them are extraordinary long terms. 5 and 6 years is too long. So for that reason, I think we should defer this, and I would move that we do so.
Second. We have a motion to defer and a second. Any discussion? Councilmember Gregory?
Yeah, just a question. The the appointment timeframe, is that statutory? And by that I mean not by us, but by either the housing authority or the federal government.
So that's a really good question, because that was one of the questions that came up. I went back and looked at that. I have conferred with legal counsel. We could not find anything other than the city code to prescribe the terms of appointment for the commissions that are under 2-152, which would include, but it is not limited to, the housing authority.
Have we checked that out with the housing authority?
Well, I believe the housing authority, at least through its chairman, has weighed in on this.
No. I'm asking whether or not, okay, we've gotten an answer from the housing authority with regard to whether or not there is statutory requirement outside of their responsibility that puts the 5-year term. And I think that's a legitimate question.
Again, and if it's a question that needs to be answered formally by our legal counsel, that's yet another reason why we should look at this before we actually act. And I've asked the question, I've been given and been pointed in no particular direction where there is any other parallel or disqualifying statutory authority that would take away from us the ability to set these terms. So I don't believe so, but certainly worth a question to our legal team. I didn't make these comments to be giving legal advice really as a council member. I
Right.
just wanted to.
I don't think we've investigated that matter, that question. I see Corporation Counsel shaking his head to the negative. All right, any other questions or discussions? I'd just like to say I'm going to vote against the deferral, and I would like to support Ms. Jackson. She's proven her interests and her background in housing, affectionately known as a houser. She's very passionate about this housing affordability issue. She has a real work experience in the field before she came to Charleston. She's been involved in not just council, but with the Charleston Redevelopment Corporation and with the Climb Fund. So she's very familiar with the local projects and what it takes to make affordable housing happen. So I think she would be a good person, whether it's a 3-year term or a 5-year term. And I understand, future council and mayor-elect may want to study every single committee and commission we got out there and the rules of governance for each one. But I don't see that as a compelling reason to hold up a really qualified, interested person to serve in this position. Any other comments? Councilmember Shea.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for those comments. And, 8 years ago, when you got elected, you inherited a little bit of a mess, I'm just quite frank with you, on these commissions and committees. Because a lot of these commissions, appointees were just holdovers, and we weren't paying a whole lot of attention. And it took a while, and I remember going through all that process, reappointing people. Some folks were moved over, and we got it cleaned up. I think it took years to have that done. I love Carol Jackson. This is not a vote about Carol Jackson. This is not a vote about her qualifications at all. This is a vote about procedure, and Councilmember Waring and Councilmember Seekins can say it a lot more articulately than I can. But come January 9th, there's going to be a different person sitting in this chair and a different person sitting in that chair as well, who's going to vote about these types of appointments. Councilmember Appel has said numerous times on not necessarily this particular appointment, but some of these boards and commissions serve as a quasi-judicial function, and this is critically important. So I don't want this vote to be taken, or my discussion to be taken as anything negative about Ms. Jackson. I love her. I think she's a very dedicated public servant. But I do think that out of protocol that we ought to defer this, let the new council, new mayor go through this. They may be fully and comfortable with her being appointed, but that's not my call right now. So I would just ask that we defer it, let the new administration take a hold of this. And I appreciate that you have left this in a lot better situation than you inherited 8 years ago, but still, this is an opportunity to ask just to pass on this right now.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Appel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I think some good points have been made about procedure and the process moving forward, but I would be remiss to say, if I didn't say that, if you've served as a city council member and you no longer serve as a city council member, but still want to come here,
Particularly tonight.
particularly tonight, that demonstrates to me what you're about. And you can say a lot of things about Councilmember Jackson. I think if we went around this table, everybody would have some things to say, but I don't think anybody can doubt the fact that she's sincere, that she puts a lot of time and energy and effort into what she does. She does her homework. I mean, she can talk to me about zoning. She's one of the few people on the planet that I can talk to about zoning, and they don't immediately run for the hills after a few minutes. So you guys make a really good point about the procedure. I'm always about finding ways we can improve the process, but I think Councilmember Jackson would be an asset to this board. She has a passion for housing. As Mayor Tecklenburg mentioned, she has professional background in this area, which means she brings a lot of real world expertise to the table. So I think we can do both things. I think we can vote in Councilmember Jackson tonight while also embarking on a lot of these positive measures that were mentioned by Councilmember Waring and Councilmember Seeking. So I'm against deferring this, and I hope we can rally to support one of our colleagues tonight. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Sackler.
Just briefly echo Councilman Appel's point. Any former council member, hopefully I'll be welcome to come back and work on a commission that wants to come back and work, particularly with Carol's expertise. We ought to be opening the door, particularly for this work because of the importance of the work. So I just want to echo Councilman Appel's point. It seems like when it seems that when in history, when we are trying to make a point, we often talk about process and procedure when it's convenient. And it just seems like this is another one of those convenient times to talk about process and procedure. So I think I'm not voting in favor of the deferral. I think we should move on and we can revamp the process at a later point. Thank you.
All right, we got a
I
motion to
definitely want to
defer.
address that, Mr. Mayor.
Would anybody who has not spoken yet like to be heard? Councilmember Seeking.
Thank you. Councilmember Sackler, I don't know if you were here or heard it. I brought this up long before Carol Jackson's name was on this list. And I've stuck with that. This has nothing to do with Carol. This has everything to do with, I believe, we have to look at that. And a 5-year term is too long. We'll see how this deferral goes, but I think we should rethink all of this, not just this particular appointment. So if this is not a motion of convenience, this is a motion of belief. I've always been a stickler for procedure around here. And when I see something that I think we need to move forward on, I bring it up. And look, it's not just this appointment. There are a number of appointments that are 5 and 6 years. Those are long appointments. You know, we as a council have some obligation of oversight when we send people out there in the world. We also have an obligation to leave them alone while they're doing it. And so there's got to be a balance between the time frame that they're out there and the time that we get to come back and take a look at it. That's the point I'm making. I'm going to make it again in January. I'm hoping that we'll be able to collectively think about all that. So just so the record's very clear, this has nothing to do with the person on this list. It has to do with the list that's in front of us and the time frame, because when this first came up, it was a different person's name on it. Just so the record's very clear about that. This is nothing to do with the person.
Thank
Nothing.
you. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I know we're talking about deferring, we're talking about this, talking about former Councilman Jackson, but that don't have nothing to do with it. We are here now, and this is coming before us to now, not next year. We need to stop and let's do what we need to do right now today, right now tonight, and let next year handle its own. You can deal with all that policy, what you're talking about next year, fine. But this is on the agenda now. Let's go and vote and get this over with right now and deal with that next year, whatever comes with the policy. They're still gonna do that later on. We always wanna say, let's wait and do this, wait. My parents used to always tell me, wait, break down the wagon. So I'm breaking on the wagon. Let's go and vote, and I'm not gonna vote for no deferral. I'm gonna vote you know, from Ms. Jackson, former Councilman Jackson, we have worked together a lot. I must sometimes used to get on my nerve a little bit, but you know, anyway, she was all right. She does her homework. And with the Housing Authority, the way the Housing Authority Board is, a lot of people talking about the Housing Authority Board. I worked with the Housing Authority Board for almost 33 years. And to have someone on that board that you can call and would know the answer, someone that call that even community can talk with, because knowing the procedures, that's different. I know we're talking about, oh, we need to have this type of person who have all this financial, they're gonna have all of that. But we are making so many changes, and sometimes the changes that you'll make is not good changes sometimes. I always say, and I love all my colleagues to death, but when y'all get out there in that community and be out there with these young people on those public housing and knowing what they have to go through and knowing they don't have anyone to reach out to, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm out there because most of the housing complex is in the district that I represent, in the district that Councilman Gregory going to represent next year, that Councilman Sackler have now. We have a small one downtown that Councilman Seekins represent, but the majority is right there on the east side or on the west side. And sometimes they don't know what to go, but if you have someone on that board that they can contact, because that board sometimes does not look out for the people on those in the community. And I can tell you facts, and I'm not talking to hear myself. So I'm not going to vote for deferral. I'll vote to place Ms. Jackson on the board next year, next year when it comes in.
Thank you. Councilmember Gregory, and then let's call the question. Councilmember Gregory?
Yeah, I'm not going to vote for deferral either, because I do think this has to do with the person.
Oh, come on.
Let me finish, okay? It has to do with the person because it's the person, for me, that I support. So it does have something to do with the person for me, because the person has the kind of qualifications, okay? As I look at our board, okay, our Charleston Housing Authority Board, I think one of the things that's lacking is a person like Carol Jackson. So when I say it is the person, that's what I mean. What she's going to bring to that body and to that table is lacking now. We can deal with process anytime, anytime. If she was to be appointed today or tonight, we could change it to 3 years when we go to the rules. So when I say it's about the person, for me, it is about the person, because this is a person that I think will bring to that board what it truly needs.
All right. I have a motion on the floor to defer. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? No. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Gregg, and this is for a deferral. Councilmember Shealy,
Aye.
Councilmember Saccharine,
Nay.
and please remember to use your microphones.
Nay.
Thank you. Councilmember Mitchell,
Nay.
Councilmember Brady,
Nay.
Councilmember Gregory,
Nay.
Councilmember Waring,
Nay.
Councilmember Seekins, Councilmember Shade,
Aye.
Councilmember Appel,
Nay.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
Nay.
The motion fails.
Now the appointment to appoint Carol Jackson. The motion was on the floor. Any further discussion? Councilmember Waring.
I just want to clarify that it's not personal. Council Leader Jackson's qualification is the same in December as it would be in January. It is about process. I am going to vote for the appointment because Councilman Mitchell was right. We can come back and fix this process thing in January, I think is what he said. I'm glad you say for you it's personal, Councilman Gregory, because
That is not the case. And I think part of the problem with this subject right now is because it's been put out there that it's personal. It has never been personal between me and Council Lady Jackson. And I gotta be frank, I was a little bit insulted by it. And she should be too, because she served this council and served this council well, above and beyond. I don't think there's anybody that went to more meetings or more committees with the city of Charleston and in volunteer services than Carol Jackson. Okay? She certainly went more than I did, and on time. So that's right, and still does. So to say that was personal with her, if that was an indirect inference from anybody on this council, I want to unequivocally say that that is not the case, and certainly Carol Jackson has served the city and this council well. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Councilmember Brady.
Yep, and we will definitely do that. I just want to make clear for Councilmember Waring and Councilmember Seekings, I'd be happy to schedule an ad hoc rules committee meeting to get that on the agenda and work with the clerk's office to get that scheduled so that we can begin diving into that and work with legal counsel as well. So.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor of the appointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and let it show that it was unanimous. Thank you. Next up, we have an appointment to the Citizens Police Advisory Council in the name of Tom.
Move for approval.
Homer.
Second.
Any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have a brief update from Adrian Swinton on our Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission, which is required, by the way, in our ordinance of setting up the commission, that we have a regular report to council on their activities. So we wanted to get this in for you before the end of the year.
Good evening. First of all, thank you to the Mayor Tecklenburg, thank you to council, and thank you for everyone being here. I'm going to give an update on where we are with Hark. So as an overview, you will get a background and a context. You will understand what Hark is and why does it exist, Hark manager activity, Hark progress, the 2024 strategic priorities and goals. Just a brief background on the context. Hark was established by ordinance February 9th, 2022, but that was also amended in October of the same year. Hark purpose is to promote equity, inclusion, and racial conciliation. That includes all forms of institutional and community discrimination, We also advise and assist in any recommendations from the mayor and council through standing committees in the areas of housing and mobility, economic empowerment, environment and health, history and culture, youth and education, criminal justice reform, and internal review. Hark consists of 13 members. 3 of those members are city council and 10 appointees. We do have a vacant seat, and we meet monthly, the second Thursday of each month, 5 p.m. here in City Hall. We first gave a progress report in December 2022. What is Hark and why does it exist? We are making policy recommendations to City Council to, of course, promote and improve human relations and advance equity in the city. Also supporting the City Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation. We are providing forums where residents can raise issues and complaints relating to human relations in the city, promoting and improving human relations, advancing equity, and of course, the following areas as mentioned before: public safety, educational, art, cultural opportunities, economic empowerment, health and human services, along with housing. What are some of the activities of the Hark manager? I report to the Office of the Mayor. I provide staff support to Hark. facilitate the racial equity core team, and that core team consists of 15 city departments, provide support for the development of the departmental equity plans, create and facilitate employees with DEI orientation and trainings. I also manage the contracts of organizational development and research for Hark. I actively participate in interdepartmental initiatives such as the City Water Plan, Data Governance Committee, and also the Gullah Geechee Heritage Project. The commission progress. We have been making progress in our recommendations that we've acted on are CPAC, the guidelines and revision, CPD, ERA study, South Carolina Hate Crime Legislative Support Resolution, Moja Festival Incorporation, the SCEIRC Participant Recognition Resolution. We also were advocates for the Workday software, giving all city employees access to an email account. We partnered with Good Stock Consulting LLC to develop the strategic plan. Hark has a couple of recommendations that are pending, and they are Fair Housing Ordinance and also the bar amendments. We have ongoing activities with the BCD, Rapid Transit Project, Union Pier Renaissance District, the City Open Data Initiative, the Peninsula Plan, and of course, South Carolina Human Affairs Community Relations Council. We have here our 2024 strategic priorities and goals. Priority 1 is creating permanency, make Hark a permanent commission with the City of Charleston. Priority 2 is community partnerships, create partnerships with community-based organization. And priority 3 is evaluation of efforts. We're going to evaluate the efforts and support other relevant citywide evaluations. This is how we plan on getting there. So as we make the commission a permanent commission, we will review proposed language of Hark ordinance, providing suggestions, which is adding defined relationships between Hark and the city internal equity core team to be in the Hark ordinance. We will remove the renewal terms to allow permanency, provide commissioners racial diversity. We will advocate for a budget to support Hark, providing expansion and community engagement. We also will engage with the College of Charleston students as interns to support Hark operations and the special projects. As we create partnerships with local community-based organization, establishing Hark talking points for not only the commission, but also council members and city staff to ensure a consistent messaging about the commission, who we are and what is it we do. Invite community-based organization to attend Hark meetings and share intersections. We will co-host and semi-annual community forum to share an update on Hark's progress and receive feedback. And lastly, evaluate Hark efforts to support other relevant city evaluations. Advocate for and facilitate city efforts relative to economic empowerment, affordable housing, and the local and minority business participation. Some examples of that is the racial bias assessment, bar amendment, and Union Pier. Also establishing key performance indicators, KPIs for Hark. Participant in local assessments and promote and support racial equity. Do we have any questions or comments?
This is not really a question or a comment, but more of an observation. And so a couple of weeks ago, I received a phone call from one of my constituents who was living on a fixed income. And she received notice that her rent was going to go up from $850 a month to $1,850. And I immediately sent an email and a call to Giona, who jumped on this very quickly, her in the department, to assist this woman. And it was an apartment complex that for her, I think one other resident were targeted. I don't understand why, but it was just those two apartments being listed to increase the rent from $850 to $1,800. It just was staggering in my district. So one of the things I would ask you to look at, and we were able to address it, but she had to move. The bottom line is that she moved not just out of the area, but she moved to another county within the state. And she got assistance in having that accomplished. But here is just an example that I'm sharing with you, because I think that this is a prime example that your commission can address, come up with some really concrete solutions on how to resolve that. I know some of it is legal, but it's just maybe the educational component of this, but I just see this as being an ongoing problem in our community. We've talked about affordable housing. We passed that $20 million referendum 8 years ago. But these sort of local issues impact our community. It has a direct impact on negating our diversity as who we are as a community. So I'm just sharing this for your commission to look at this, to think about ways that this is a real issue. This is a real problem. And whatever we can do to address that is certainly going to go forward to help our community. So thanks for the work that y'all are doing. I'm just trying to feed you some more stuff to chew on for and come up with some real hard solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Saccharin.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to just comment, obviously, I co-chair this with Jerry Harris and then former Councilwoman Jackson, who's on another commission yet. So thank you for your dedicated service. And Adrian, I just want to say thanks for everything you've done. A couple things I want to highlight. I was hoping that folks from the new mayor's office would be here, or person that's taken this position. I think maybe we have to do this again, or you meet with them individually. I wanted them to understand what Hark was about. And I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged that there was a lot of controversy leading into this. But the work we've done over the past year has been nothing but controversial, not controversial. It's been intentional, and we spent a lot of time with the commission members, getting them up to speed. One of the things that we took away from the first iteration was we kind of just jumped in. We had 90 days to do some of the work, and not all of us were on the same page. Not all of us understood the terms. So I think what we've done this time around was, to Jerry's leadership and Carol's leadership and Adrian's leadership, was bring in good stock, slow things down, be more intentional about the wording and the definitions. And the group we have is diverse. So I want to make sure you're all aware of it. It's actually, I think there's only 2 or 3 African-Americans on the commission. We've got folks that represent parts of Johns Island and West Ashley and have come from different viewpoints. So I want to make sure that folks are aware that this is not some sort of super woke commission. This is a commission that I'm seeing create its own sense of identity, and I hope that it becomes permanent. And the identity that it is creating is almost like this lens, this convener of a lot of decisions that happen in the city and that work through basically Adrian's office. And it's just a different lens that we have to work through. And oftentimes when we do pause and work through that lens, and we take a step back to realize that maybe this decision isn't the best for a particular segment of our society or segment of Charleston. And I think that's where Hark can really lend its expertise over the years. And I do hope it becomes permanent. And it's been an honor serving. I want to continue to serve, but I just wanted to share those comments. Adrian, good job on the presentation.
Thank you. Councilmember Gregory.
Adrian, thank you for your leadership. I mean, as we move forward as a city and we continue to try to develop equity plans for all departments, and I think that's one of your goals. I was very encouraged by your participation as well as others in our selection of a vendor for our fire department, who has voluntarily decided that they want to take a look inside of themselves to make a determination as to why the stats are where they are. And I just wanted to say publicly, while you were not on the selection committee for whatever reason, you did come in and gave us very valuable advice as we went through the various vendors for selection. So for me, that was a highlight of Hark, now getting parts of our city to look within themselves to determine equity, inclusion, and diversity. I do hope that it will become permanent, and I hope that we also do the right thing and make sure that our council member is appointed as the chairman, because as I always tell him, it's bigger than him, and that he has a responsibility to do what he's doing. Keep up the good work. I appreciate you guys. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you. All right, well, if no other comments, Adrian, thank you for your good work as well, and thank you for that report to council. So next up is the resolution to support instant runoff voting, and I want to make clear that we're not approving instant runoff voting at all. We're just asking the legislature to give us that as an additional option, and in the event that they decide to pass that on the state level, then a future mayor and future council would have to make a decision as to whether we actually want it or not. At this point, we're just asking for the option.
Move for approval.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Councilmember Brady.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll just be brief and actually do that. I studied political science in college. I know some of my colleagues did here as well. This is a system, I think we're just so used to first past the post with plurality that we think it's the only method by which people can understand how to vote. You just vote for your person, and if they get 30% and that's the highest, then they win. But I think most people understand, and to the example that Ms. Garden gave about the ice cream, you know, there are situations where 60%, 70% of the electorate don't favor a particular candidate. So in the ice cream example, you might like vanilla, but chocolate's a really close second. And that's what's okay with the majority, is the second choice for some and the first choice for others. It's worked in other countries that have implemented this. Other US states, including some states, have used it for their congressional elections, including in the primaries. And it's proven successful. People actually like it because most people can understand you can rank something first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and on. And so I don't think the argument that this system would be confusing to voters carries much water. But I would encourage you, read some of the actual scholarly articles on it by folks who study this for a living. And I think it'll carry the day for folks to see that not only does it save the taxpayers money on a fiscal perspective, but it allows them to have their voice heard more than just having to hold their nose and pick one person on the ballot. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Sacrin?
I'm really at a roll tonight. I'm going to be very brief on this one. So I did some research on the pros and cons, and looking at and this is just an example for folks that are paying attention in the room, that are listening, on why it's important. When you look at the data from the school board election, the most recent school board election, if we had ranked choice voting for the school board elections, we wouldn't have the dysfunction that we see with our current school board, hands down. So for me, that says a lot in terms of the voting and looking at the data for the school board. I can't speak for other elections, but when I look at the numbers and how folks voted, it was clear that this would have certainly helped. So those are my comments.
Right. I agree. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's have a roll call on this one.
I just know it's my turn to vote. There is a sense of that, but yes, nay.
Councilmember Shealy,
Nay.
Councilmember Sacrin,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Stay now.
I'm sorry. Can you use your mic? I can't hear you.
I'm not voting on this one yet.
All right, Councilmember Mitchell is abstaining. Councilmember Brady,
Aye.
Councilmember Gregory, Councilmember Waring,
Nay.
Councilmember Seekings, Councilmember Shade,
Nay.
Councilmember Appel,
Yes.
Mayor and council members Bowden and Parker are absent. Mayor Tecklenburg,
Wasn't Councilmember Bowden with us online?
He left earlier. He
okay.
left.
I vote aye, yes.
The motion fails.
Thank you all for your consideration. Thank you all for your advocacy. Next up is our council committee reports, Committee on Public Safety. Councilmember Shade.
Are we skipping the council communications?
Oh, in Councilmember Parker's absence, she asked to defer the matter that she requested.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Committee on Public Safety met on December the 11th. There was a brief meeting. The purpose of the meeting was just to go over a discussion concerning the next steps of the assessment of the CPD's implementation of the racial bias audit recommendations. And if you heard from Mr. Harris, who was just here a moment ago, Dr. Kale is going to have a public forum on that discussion beginning on January 25th. The idea behind this is to make sure that we're moving forward with the recommendation. I'm looking at Heather Malloy right now. And to make sure we have good public engagement to ensure the implementation of the recommendations and get public input on that. So that was the only business we had for our Public Safety Committee meeting. And we just want to make sure that the process continues going forward. Thank you. That's our report.
Yes. Any questions or comments? Thank you kindly for that report. Next up is our Committee on Public Works and Utilities. Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All items on the report that required a vote was passed unanimously. And the part that Mr. Mayor spoke about, in particular, these arches and how we redoing some of the sewer system underneath the city to make them with practical uses today. I just wish we had more money, Mr. Mayor. I think we got a jewel underneath the ground, but I'd like to defer to you so you can address it further.
Well, we have requested additional funding for that, and we've been really working it along about as quickly as the vendors that are equipped to do this kind of work. We've been pushing them along about as good a rate as they can do. So steady wins the race is all I can say.
Yeah.
This isn't getting done overnight, but if we keep at it, it'll probably take another 3 to 4 years, something in that time frame, maybe 5, and it'll continue to make improvements as we go. I did request some federal funding for this and got turned down for it, and some state funding and got turned down for it. So we're just feeding it along year by year, and we'll continue with those efforts, I hope.
Well, thank you,
Seekins.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the report. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your support of this project or this series of projects. If y'all are downtown and you see a Palmetto gunite truck near the BNC development truck next to each other, go stop and talk to them. I mean, you're not gonna be bothering them, and they'll show you and tell you what they're doing. It is really an amazing project. It's amazing. I mean, it's all underground, so you can't see it, but you'll see the process they go through and what they're doing with those brick arches. You'll remember, it was what, a few months ago, we showed those pictures, how dramatic they are. It's really, it's amazing. And to show you that our money is well spent, as difficult as Sunday was for all of us, and it was. I mean, it was as dramatic a day as I remember in my lifetime as a city of Charleston resident. It was rough. If you went to the corner of Wentworth and Cumming Street, when the rains subsided and the tide went back out, the first place that drained on the peninsula that was flooded badly was that corner. Before this project, it would still be flooded there. That's how well that system is cleared out and worked. As soon as that tide went down and that water could go, that system that has been refurbished through these monies and this project worked. So to Matt and his team, thank you for the support of this council. It's to the benefit of all of us, particularly those who live on the peninsula. And this is going to be money incredibly well spent for generations. So,
Right.
and there's a long way to go. So we as a council just got to keep an eye on it and cobble together the funding that we can and go back again and ask the feds when we get the chance to see if we can get any help, the county as well, because this is a really great project.
It's
So-
probably one of the most cost-effective
Oh,
projects
absolutely.
out there, really. Thank you. But I move the adoption of the report, Mr. Mayor.
Exactly.
Any further discussion? I'll just add that, the next intersection is really the same at Wentworth and Cumming. And, I remember about 2 years ago when there was a collapse up on, Cumming Street at,
George.
at Bull Street, or just
George,
above
George.
George and Bull Street. And I climbed down into the Archway Tunnel system. And right there, there's like an intersection of one tunnel going this way, another tunnel going down Bull Street. And there's like a huge cavern there, underneath Cumming Street where it had failed. I mean, you could, have a gathering down in there. But what had happened when they started down at the Battery at Limehouse Street and worked their way up to about Broad, I think in the block between Broad and Queen Street, they found a blockage that, I mean, basically the thing was not operating. It was like 95% blocked. And that's why that water from, Bufane and Cumming, it couldn't get out. It would take it forever to get out, right? That water would just sit there for days, sometimes weeks, it seemed like. So, that's how effective this rehab project is, and, y'all keep it up. So all in favor of the report, please say aye. Any opposed, the ayes have it. So next up is, our Ways and Means Committee report. As amended.
And that,
Yeah.
that includes the deferral of the two Bees Ferry Road annexations.
Correct. All right. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, the ayes have it. Next bill's up for second reading. We have 7 items.
Second.
Okay, we want to pull out any or discuss any of those? All in favor, second reading, please say aye. Any opposed, the ayes have it. Now for third reading, and
Second.
ratification. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, the ayes have it. Now we have one item up for first reading, and then I'm going to, retire from the meeting and turn this over to, Mayor Pro Tem Saccharin. This ordinance is to amend zoning code to modify the penalties for the intentional demolition of structures without required approvals. I think this is basically a correction that is coming to us. Anybody want to speak to that? Magali? Did we get a motion on the
So
floor?
moved.
Yeah, okay.
Good evening. This is just to correct the ordinance to reflect what was in fact discussed at the meeting and passed by council and recommended by the planning commission. And that is the up to 5-year ban on further approvals from the BAR.
If you violate intentionally.
Correct. That being the penalty for the, yes, simply the penalty. Yep.
Councilmember Gregory?
And so the way that the ordinance is essentially structured, it places the burden on the applicant. If there has been a denial for a demolition request within the prior 5 years to show that it wasn't intentional, and there are a number of ways that they can do that. But essentially, it shifts that burden onto the applicant where that, only in that instance.
Anybody else?
Thank you, by the way, for all that.
Councilmember Rappel? Oh, terrific. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the ayes have it. Now, we have a call for an executive session, receive an update and legal advice on pending litigation. I've recused myself from this, so, Councilmember Saccharin is going to take over as presiding officer through the executive session and even close out the meeting for tonight. So I'm going to be Wamus. Thank you all, for, a good evening and, good luck.
I think we need to make a motion to go into executive session.
Yes.
I would like to move that we go into executive session to receive legal advice on the law school matter.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Pell. The motion passed. We are now in executive session. I'm not sure who's speaking to it.
We're going to meet.
Can I get a motion? Can I get a motion to come out of executive session? And a second, motion is made and properly seconded. We are out of executive session. And we need to vote for that. We need a vote to come out of executive session. Aye, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. We are out of executive session. I want to make sure that the record reflects no actions were taken during executive session. Can I have a motion to adjourn?